of the Thomas Sessions, and we are here right now. As you can see at the other side of my screen, we have a special guest with us right now. So you probably seen him when he was doing an interview with one of our bartenders, Poch. So basically, for starters, this pandemic, me personally, it has kind of taught me how to play with technical stuff like video editing, the use of Zoom, the use of um, what do you call this? Editing materials like KineMaster and CapCut. And it's nice to see, the our guest. Actually, when I was viewing his videos, that I can learn a lot from him. Especially, all over the world also, we have a lot of bartender friends who are really good when it comes to video production, video editing, live streaming. And of course, here at Thomas Sessions, you all know very well, we're 1 year old already. And of course, we have a lot of things that we need to also improve on as we go along. But so far, so good. Another thing,
Oh,
actually, that is interesting, about our guest today is the concept of brand ambassador. We all here in the Philippines. Well, as far as I can remember, the concept of brand ambassadorship started maybe around 2013, 2014 with Diageo having the first brand ambassador for the Philippines. And then maybe it was followed by the one from Bacardi, William Grant and Sons, and so on and so forth. I actually, if I forgot, I apologize for that. We've seen in social media our friend Daniel Nevsky, actually in his Instagram, he was discussing about brand ambassador, bar wisdom versus bar knowledge, and we also saw this. Well, for those who haven't seen it, there is a competition actually ongoing by Miss Elaine Duff about being a brand ambassador. And it's very very nice to hear it from one of our friends all the way from London, who has actually well, he'll tell you more about his stint on being a global brand ambassador for this brand that we also have here in the Philippines. So actually, just to cut the long story short, actually, to introduce our guest, he is the director of Bartenders Broadcast Network, BBN. All right, and he has this show. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Dean Callan.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dean. So, okay, yeah, maybe a little introduction. So, can you tell us something about yourself, like how you started? And
So yeah, my name is Dean Callan. I'm now working as you said, the director of, I don't know what name I gave myself, but the dean of the Dean Callan Show. And I started with it called the Dean Callan Show because it was like just me. But my goal now is to grow the channel and what I'm doing to allow other people to have input and call it the Bartenders Broadcast Network. Like CNN or the BBC, they've got like lots of different people making shows, but you go to one place and you can watch it. So that's my goal, is to kind of have one YouTube channel or one network that you can start watching, and you'll see lots of different people get involved. I've got to get my thing together first and then I'll know how to bring other people in. Before I started doing what I'm doing, I also consult, actually. So for the last 5 years, I've been a consultant, mostly working for alcohol companies, for brands. And a lot of it, well, pretty much all of the work I do is like kind of under non-disclosure agreements. It's kind of the early planning of building a brand, and what should we do, and should we do this, and what glassware do we put the first cocktails they do into, and things like that, and where do they launch, how do they launch. Before that, I was the global brand ambassador for Monkey Shoulder whiskey for about 6 or 7 years. which in global brand ambassador terms and the amount I was traveling is a long time. It feels like an entire lifetime. Before that, I worked at cocktail bars. So I worked at a tiki bar called Kanaloa. I worked at a classic cocktail bar called Milk and Honey in London.
Nice.
And before that, so we're back to 2009. I was the brand ambassador for Bacardi portfolio in China and Greater China, and I did some work in Asia Pacific. And then before that, I was working in a cocktail bar in Australia, and I also worked as a brand ambassador part-time for Diageo Reserve Brands before they started calling it Reserve Brands. And before that, I worked in bars in Ireland and cocktail bars. So I've been around since like 1999.
But no, but actually, I've researched, and it's just there. Basically, you are Irish, right? Technically, but you grew up in Australia, and then now you are in London. So how is that? I mean, maybe because me, I only work on ships. I did get ships for a week or maybe days only. So how's the adjustment? I mean, on a personal note, how do you feel, or what's your motivation to?
It's funny because the ships is the only thing I didn't do, as far as I understand. I had a list of things to do to be like the best bartender I can be. One of them was work in a pool bar where people float up and throw bottles around and do flair. Another one was work in a beach bar. I kind of hit both of those in one resort that I worked at. One of them was become a manager, work in nightclubs, work in an Irish bar pouring Guinness on St. Patrick's Day, which I did twice. It was amazing. All these different things. And work in a cocktail bar that was a recognized cocktail bar. And I think Milk and Honey kind of tick that box for me. All of those things, but one of them was to go on a cruise ship, and I was terrified of where my mental state would lead. I got a job on Royal Caribbean, and they showed me the room I'd be in, and I'm like, who am I staying with in this tiny room? Well, you don't get to choose. And I'm like, oh, I'm out. And call it privilege, but I just like, I'm not sure I would be sane working 7 days a week if I come back to my room and I can't just chill. And B, I don't think the person that gets stuck with me in their room is going to have any rest at all. You know, sometimes I don't sleep at night, and like, I was really wild in those days. So, you know, I kind of seen it as, I'm not taking this job because I'm doing the other person a favor, and that whoever else is on that ship a favor, not having to kick me off. But yeah, that's the one thing I didn't do. As far as adjusting to a new city, I never felt like when I was in Australia, I never really felt like I was like staying in Australia, if that makes sense. So I didn't put down roots. I didn't like try to buy a house. I didn't buy a lot of things necessarily. I set myself up in houses a couple of times, but no really big purchases or anything. And I always had my heart set on traveling the world and seeing like what it's like to bartend in London, New York, Paris, like the big cities where I kind of seen it as being really competitive, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But why Australia first?
Well, my family, when I was 8 years old, my family moved to Australia.
I see.
So as soon as I was old enough, like when I turned 18, I got a job in a bar. Well, just before I turned 18, I got a job in a bar. And then when after about 8 or 9 months, I moved back to Ireland, and I lived in Ireland for a few years working. That's where I really started to learn to bartend. Mostly because the first bar I worked in, they had weekly training, and the training was like, you know, you made drinks. And the thing is, I'm able to remember information really easily, like, or in those days I certainly did. I remember the specifications for the cocktails really easily compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
So I'm making them exactly as they said, and my hand-eye coordination was good. So, you know, I was literally a laborer, a brickies laborer before I was a bartender. So the action of this and like lifting things is like not far off from throwing cement and lifting bricks.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to Ireland, the guys didn't care how fast I was. They didn't care, you know, whether I knew how to pour a Guinness. They would only let me serve them if I had some form of relationship with them. And I think that trial by fire in an old man's pub, where the old men don't, it's not that they want to drink, they want to drink from someone they trust.
Yeah.
You know, you need to build up a rapport with them. And I would be standing with an empty Guinness glass, like, you want to Guinness, man? And they'd be waiting for the proper bartender who's like 40 years old, and they know, you know? And eventually when they started letting me pour them a pint, I was like, thank God, you know, like I made it.
Nice, yeah.
So it was Ireland where I first started to learn the social aspect of bartending, and I think that was a really powerful thing for me. But yeah, I got into it. The question was, how did you get into it, right?
Yeah, and well, what's your feeling? I mean, how do you feel about? Well, you answered it already. How do you feel about moving from one city to the other?
It was easy.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it was easy. I'd love to do a series of videos for people where we give a camera to someone who's moving to a new city and get them to document their time. You know, because actually, one thing I remember, every time you move to a new city, I would compete in bartending competitions. Not to win. I'd join every competition I could. Not to win, just because I'm introducing myself to the people who are about to become the well-known bartenders in that city, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I did that as a especially later on, I did that as a rule. And I didn't care about winning. I just introduced myself to everyone. And you find there's a certain type of bartender that takes people in as well. When you first arrive in a city, there's some people that just won't speak to you, and then there's some types of people who are really open and really friendly, and, oh, you should speak to that guy. I know this person who's got a job going. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And those people, the very first people I met that helped me out at the beginning, I'm still talking to now, you know? So that's interesting as well. And you forget who helped you at the beginning after 10 years.
Exactly. Oh, nice. This is okay, guys. For those who are listening, you get a pen and paper, and you'll learn some tips about, of course, bartending life in general. And actually, this is about the other opportunities that bartending opens up for us. Okay, so let's go to you said competitions, right? Okay, so although you really didn't join to win, but isn't that, I mean, how would I put it? Isn't that one of the main reasons why you join a competition, basically?
Oh yeah, I always wanted to win. I tried to win, but I also, you understand, like, this was 10, 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, competitions were a slightly different thing.
Yes.
There weren't as many people going to the competitions. If you think about the way competitions were seen before Facebook, right? So imagine you take all social media out of the picture. There's no videos of people doing anything unless you're watching them on TV, you know, or going onto a website that's owned by Bacardi, and Bacardi may show the Bacardi like legacy version of competition that was around 20 years ago. The only way you're seeing who is doing what in the bar industry is there's a magazine that comes out. And, you know, like Drink Magazine in China was the first one that I've seen in my travels in Asia. But when I was in Australia, which was the time I was first started competing, you get a magazine. It was called the Bartender Magazine. It's still around now. Yeah. And there was also Bars and Clubs. And in the back of it, you know, there's photos of bar teams. And they've just all posed for a photo, because the photos as well, like, the digital cameras weren't in everyone's pockets. You had to get a camera to take a photo. Yes. So you could open this magazine, and if you get in the magazine, anyone who's a serious bartender, like the competitive type bartenders, they read those magazines, they see your face, they may remember your name, but you keep doing competitions, they keep seeing your face in the magazines, and when you meet them, you're like really well known. Yeah. It was great to do the competitions because you do get to meet people, but that changes the first interaction you have with someone from being that you remember I said before, when you first go to a new city, there's some people that'll just be friendly with you straight away and some people that won't talk to you straight away. When I was first starting out, the people who wouldn't normally talk to you straight away, if they've seen you in a magazine, they talk to you straight away. You know what I mean?
Gotcha,
it's kind of like getting your foot in the door. You can still stick your foot in your mouth after you got your foot in the door and say all the wrong things, but you got your foot in the door. So for me, I was doing absolutely everything I could. And as far as I was concerned, if you make a mess of things, as long as, like, even if you ruin your chances at the competition, doesn't matter. You're in the room with everyone. I got often flown to Sydney. I get to see bars in Sydney. Often there's a brand ambassador paying for the drinks. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
That's why I realized after a few competitions, like, I'd won a few as well, which helps. Once you won a couple, you're not as worried. But I kept going to. If I open a bar again soon, I'd still enter a competition at 40. Just enter the competition, do something really lame and old. You know what I mean? Like, just for fun, and have people be like, "Is he serious with this Tom Collins bullshit?" And then hang out with everyone, have a chat. Put my bar's name on the table.
Yeah.
You forget as well, like that in. I was in a competition in 2007 that all the competitors went into like Cosmopolitan magazine, which sounds really cheesy.
Yes.
But because my face was plastered all over it, and people were coming into the bar, like a lot of people were coming into the bar. It was in a big magazine, and like it's a girly magazine, so like loads of girls were coming into the bar to see this bartender that was in the competition. So it actually turned into revenue for the business, which was quite cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward now about, being a brand ambassador. Take us through that. I mean, was it on purpose? Was it really your goal to be a brand ambassador, or that term already?
Okay, so my story for being a brand ambassador, again, it's a dated thing. Right. So you said before that brand ambassadorship for you started in 2013. You first seen Diageo brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
For me, it would have been 2005 to 2006. A guy called Raj Nagra was the first brand ambassador that I seen that really had the magic. He literally did magic tricks. He'd come and he'd like flick bottles around and be like, hey, Bombay. He was a Bacardi guy with Bombay. And he was amazing. Everyone loved him. Everyone wanted to be with him. Everyone wanted to be him. He was amazing. And I was struck by him, but I had no intention of being a brand ambassador. I wanted to open a high volume bar. I kind of liked cocktails, but only because it got me more recognition and I got paid more if I knew lots about cocktails. No one seemed to pay bartenders based on how much money they put in the till.
Yeah.
I guess America's got that system, but for me, that would have made more sense. But I started working as the beverage and training director in a company, and the sales guys for actually Diageo were coming into the bar, and I knew more about their products than they did. And it wasn't because they weren't trying to learn about their products, but there was no need for them to learn their products. In 2005, 2006, all the deals they did were commercial deals. This is how much we're going to be able to give you Gordon's for. If you get Tanqueray 10, great. We'll do this for your menus. And that still exists today. But now there's 15 years of bartenders, 20 years of bartenders who have been communicating together online. In those days, it was like AOL chat rooms and stuff like that, which have you heard of AOL chat rooms?
Of course.
And things like eGullet and Drink Boy, and there was all these cool things.
Drink Boy, yes.
And in those days, you could just be chatting to Dale DeGroff and Angus Winchester and and Jake Berger. My heroes would be online. I'd be like, and I'd ask them questions and they'd answer. It was great. But I knew lots about their products because I was researching it, because I wanted to do training for my staff. I wanted them to know everything. And they came in and tried to sell things to me, and I'm like, guys, you got to know more than me. So then one of the sales guys actually found me more reasonable than the other sales guys did, and he got me to come into their offices and start doing like basic cocktail demos, trainings, and like talk about their products passionately. You know, like if you've never heard someone that really cares about the marketing stories and the botanicals, then why would you need to research it yourself if you're going in and the only thing you're being asked is to sign this and do that? There wasn't a need for brand ambassadors to go out and do these trainings. But I went into their offices and started teaching them, and also helping them speak a lingo that a language they hadn't needed to speak before, like pretentious bartender. You know, this is the days of like people wearing the croupier clips. It was before tattoos, you know. It was like before bartenders were getting tattoos and stuff. Everyone dressed like a prohibition bartender in braces, and they started getting mustaches. But yeah, I went in and started training them, and then when they started to get an advocacy program and they wanted brand ambassadors, I started with Ciroc. I also won a Ciroc competition that they had, where you were meant to win a car. And I won the competition despite arguing with the judge, because the judge kept telling me that you can't make vodka unless you use grain. And I was like, no, this is vodka distilled from grapes. No, there must be grain in it as well. And I'm like, dude, this is a grape vodka competition. A grape vodka competition. Like, there's grapes on the bottle. And then I started telling him all this information about Ciroc. And he was just arguing with me. And then I started shouting at him because I didn't care about winning anymore. But there was no backing down from someone who is apparently the judge but doesn't know the information. And I think the other two judges, because they seen this interaction, assumed I was going to get a really terrible score. So they must have boosted my score a little bit. And then despite taking his judging out of the judges. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, we get well, once in a while we get some judges like that, you know. But it's good. But of course, the arguing side, well, one must be ballsy to do that. And
yeah, I was arrogant. Very arrogant. But yeah, so I started that way, and then I got the brand ambassador role with Ciroc, and then it turned into a brand ambassador role crossed with training, and it was under a company called Behind Bars. So I was traveling around Australia training people, and I started taking on more and more brands. And then when I moved to China, I didn't want to be a brand ambassador, but I started consulting for a company. I had 5 different bars and starting to like train their bar staff. And I realized that I can't speak Chinese, right? Well, I couldn't speak Mandarin. And also I noticed, well, for the best of my knowledge, I noticed that a lot of Western bartenders that were going there to teach young Chinese bartenders who could barely speak English were telling them, do this, 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 and this, and this, and this. And then when they'd start doing it, they might be doing it wrong. But like, that's not their fault. That's bad training, right? Because how can they understand if they haven't really seen it done several times? And then the natural thing for the training I seen before and the training I come from is to go, no, that's wrong. But every time they did that, the bartender would lose face and the whole room would be like, what is this guy doing? Like, why is he so angry? You know?
Yeah.
So when I did my training, I did this. I set up a camera. I had it connected through FireWire to my laptop because I've always had gadgets. And then I would do the demonstration of how to do things. So I'd be like, bottle faces the customer, all like as if I was Charlie Chaplin, not needing to speak a word.
Yeah.
Boom, bang, boom, boom. And then the next thing, you know, faces and this. And then I would build around and show them, and I'd see the time. And then I'd keep my recording on my computer screen and then record them. And after they'd finished, we'd reset the bar and the next person would be going, but I would show them the video and just point, you know, it looks like to them when you're pouring you've got the bottle straight and the label facing, but actually when you see your video of yourself, it's like here, because like I'm losing my flexibility, you know, you're not as flexible yet because you haven't started doing that, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
And then they'd see the video and like it. So the training picked up and the staff got better and better. And also, you could show them the video of them at the beginning of the month and then the video of them at the end of the month after a month of training. And you can see, they can see how much better they're getting, but from the eyes of a guest, you know, and they loved it. So that picked up, and then Bacardi came to me and said, come and do training for us on all our brands. We know you're used to be a brand ambassador, and you can do these kind of trainings for people all over China.
Nice.
So,
Okay,
I mean, I couldn't say no to that. That was amazing.
exactly. Well, and no words needed. You know, actually, I agree with you. That's why even in my videos, apart from the talking, it's really more of the action, the step by step process. At least visually, you can see it. You know, and repetition, 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 until you.
Exactly. And you start to see yourself doing it the same way. I did get some help when I started becoming a brand ambassador. We hired a co-brand ambassador, because the brand ambassador role is about inspiring people to adopt the brand, right?
Yes.
To become advocates.
Yeah.
And if it's a foreign brand in China and you've just got all the brand ambassadors are white, like it doesn't feel like we're, as a company, invested in China. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like we got a brand ambassador that was actually Chinese and paid him really well, like we were paying an expat.
Expat. Yeah.
And you know, he starts like rocking nice clothes and has a dope laptop and stuff like that, and he was really happy with himself, and now he's doing really, really well still. His name Alex Chow, and he taught me so much about like Chinese culture and tried to teach me some language, but I couldn't get past Fuyan. Well, as soon as I learned the word for bartender is like meh, and the word for taxi driver is like, oh, like you're a boss if you're a taxi driver. I'm like, but why? Bartenders have no skill. And I was like, that's it, I'm out. I don't want to know anymore. But yeah, that was really, really good. That's how I kind of got into it, and I just kept falling back into place because it suits my personality and my style, the brand ambassador world.
Nice. Okay, I'm curious now. If you weren't a bartender, because you mentioned once you're of age or maybe 17, you started bartending, right? Although,
yeah.
did you have like a plan B, or is bartending the ultimate plan?
Bartending always was the thing. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a bartender. Or I had the idea of being like a pilot and traveling the world, or a copywriter. So I kind of wanted to write adverts for TV. So like make mini films, if that makes sense, which are adverts for TV.
Yeah.
And now I kind of do wish I'd gone into that, because as you can see, I love cameras.
Yes.
And I love, like, I just don't know how to make things look like beautiful cinematic, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the other things I kind of liked, but bartending was number one. From a young age, like 14, 15, I wanted to be a bartender.
All right. Okay. No,
So-
that's interesting. I mean, that's
I
why.
did think it paid a little better. I'm not gonna lie.
But well, did Tom Cruise have influence on that? Did Tom Cruise have had influence on that at some point?
I don't know. I don't think so. I do think in my day, when I first started bartending, the flair bartenders made a lot more money than everyone else. That's for sure.
But
They worked in show places. There were competitions and stuff like that where you earned real money.
Yeah.
Like Legends bartending competition 2000, 2001, that was like $50,000 US.
yeah. Did you compete for Legends?
No, I'm not that good.
Okay.
No way.
All right.
Yeah, but I met Christian Delpesh, which is like, you know, one of the things I never seen happening when I first started buying like VHS and DVDs
Yeah.
of people bartending. like Bottle Slinger, which you probably never. I don't know if you've ever heard of.
I know about the slinger, of course, of course.
Okay, cool. Because here, no one will know Bottle Slinger anymore. Like,
okay.
so I bought Bottle Slinger DVDs and like Roadhouse DVDs and King of the Ring DVDs and all these Flair DVDs because there wasn't a mixology DVD. No one was like, here's how to make 50 of the best classics. You know, there was just none of that. But all the Flair guys had DVDs, and you watched. I watched Christian Delpesh do the speed round in Legends, and you know he's standing back and they tell him we need one finest cold stall, we need 2 Long Island iced teas, Cuba Libre, you know, like whatever it is. And as far as I'm concerned, they were so clean, so fast, so neat. The measures were right. It doesn't matter what the ingredients were. You could swap those ingredients out in this day and age to make some really crazy, amazing 21st century cocktail. Yeah. But you don't see bartenders move like that very often anymore, you know? And I think it was that drive for the fundamentals, you know?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, Vegas is a whole new animal. I mean, like right now, apart from Christian, I would say one of my, the Flair bartender there that I follow is Tim Flippy Morris.
Yeah.
You probably seen him. He's
a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah. So that's another one. And
I can't. That's actually that should go on my bucket list. Go and sit at the bar in front of Tim.
Yeah,
because that'd be an adventure.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Shit. And he's still bartending?
Yes, he's still bartending.
Wow.
A lot of them are. But I think like Danilo Oribe, he's back in his hometown. He left. Dario is in a cocktail bar now, I think. Christian is also in a cocktail bar now. But still,
I know.
Flippy is still in.
I got to meet Christian.
Yeah. So
I did rematch, so I got to meet Christian.
Okay. Well,
it was really cool.
What they call this? Okay, so but you watched the movie of Tom Cruise? It's just that.
Yeah.
Okay. So because
I memorized it. Are you crazy?
All right.
You know the famous poem scene.
Yeah, but I don't memorize. Yeah.
He's not the last barman poet, right? I am, right? I see America drinking the fabulous cocktails we make. America's getting stinking on something I stir or shake. The sex on the beach with schnapps made from peach, the velvet hammer, the Alabama slammer. I make drinks with juice and froth, the pink squirrel, the three-toed sloth. I make drinks so sweet and snazzy, the iced tea, the kamikaze, the orgasm, the death spasm, the Singapore sling, the ding-a-ling. America, you're just devoted to every flavor I've got. But if you really want to get loaded, why don't you just order a shot?
Nice.
And then you need the Jim Beam. Oh, no Jim Beam. What a shame. And he does this one.
Yes.
Bar's open. Right?
Nice. Okay.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe a little nitty-gritty on the brand ambassadorship. Like, what is the hardest part of if there's any? What is the hardest part or discipline or aspect of being a brand ambassador?
I think it depends on where you are in your life. For me right now, it would be being away from my family because you travel a lot. It's a lonely thing. People think like, oh, you're going to bars and you're being social all the time. There's times when you're exhausted emotionally and you got to put on that face. You know, you've got to be a brand ambassador. And it makes me think, you know, when you see Broadway actors that are doing 7 shows a week, they're day in, day out, pretending to be this other person.
Yeah.
Like that must be exhausting, you know? So for me, that would be the hardest part. And then second to that, when you first start as a brand ambassador, you see the world you live in, right? So for most of my life, until I started getting a little bit better at being a brand ambassador, lived in the hospitality world, in the bar world. So it didn't matter if someone came into the bar that was a big executive banker or something like that made millions, and they were like, "You're just a bartender." And I'm like, "Buddy, in my world, bartender's number one. I live in a world surrounded by other bartenders where bartending is the number one thing that's our priority. So I don't care about your banking. I'm no intention of buying a house anytime soon, right?" That was my world. But when you start working as a brand ambassador, it's not the hospitality world. You're kind of the hospitality wing, or you're the face. In my version of brand ambassador, I was a trade brand ambassador. I would say I was very much about bartenders, the bartending scene, cocktails. But when you start realizing you're in the marketing world, the other people that work with you, they're not servers, they're not bartenders, they're not bar managers, they're marketeers. They used to be working on Colgate, or they used to work for I don't know, like it could be a toilet paper brand. It could be they were selling pharmaceuticals, and they have a lot more expertise in what you're doing than you do, because actually what you're doing is marketing, and that can be difficult when your soul is attached to the hospitality side of things, and you realize you're not in that world. It can be that can be the other hard part. So you're away from your friends and family, the personal life,
Yeah.
and then in some respects you're away from your professional life as well. And it takes a certain type of person to be able to work with the marketing team, with the corporate side of it, and let their kind of free-flowing, creative hospitality person go, so that they can have those business-minded meetings that will ensure that the back of house is done, that the boxes are ticked, so that when they go out in the trade, they can then be the hospitality person that they so desire to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to be able to work on both sides. And I was terrible at the corporate side for years. The only thing that carried me was that I was good at this bit. The keep the party going all night, wake up after 2 hours and do it again. That kept me going long enough that I started to get a team around me that supported me and could see that I had the right. My heart was in the right place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a hard part. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Well, actually,
Are we going to toast? Did you just cheers? So what are you drinking?
Okay, I'm drinking Valentine's. See? Okay, I'm drinking Valentine's. This is actually shout out to Perno, Perno Ricard Philippines, for giving me the bottle, as a gift. Okay, so yeah, I'm drinking.
Oh, nice.
So how about you? What are you drinking?
I don't have Valentine's on me right now, so I'm very sorry, Perno Ricard Philippines. But I've got a Glendalough double barrel Irish whiskey, and you know what? It was the last little bit, so I don't want it to oxidize. So I'm just, I'm doing the right thing by the whiskey.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. We have a saying in Filipino, okay? So maybe I'll teach you Tagalog words. So tagay, tagay hanggang mamatay. Okay? Tagay. You can say it. We can say tagay if you want to.
Tagay.
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 Hanggang mamatay.
Mamatay.
Yes. So tagay hanggang mamatay. Can you say that again?
Tagay hanggang mamatay.
All right. So that one.
Is that right?
Yes. Perfect. So in English, literally, this means drink till you die.
All right. Perfect.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's going to be my life. Even if I just tried to empty what's left in my home bar, I'd drink until I die.
Yeah. So actually, on a serious note, well, that one has a trivia. I don't know if you know Adam Westbrook. If you've heard,
how do I know Adam Westbrook?
Yeah, he makes he's actually based in Vietnam now. He's making this gin. I forgot the brand, but shout out if Adam is watching. So Adam Westbrook is Yeah, he's a distiller. So anyway, we bumped into each other in Singapore during the cocktail fest. Obviously, he's happy already at 12 midnight. Okay, so I was happy also. So he was like mentioning to me, "Oh, I learned something from a Filipino guy." He said, "Tagay hanggang mamatay." No, so I learned that phrase from him. But I realized, like what you said a while ago, drink and die bartending. Figuratively, it means this is the only thing that will be our last breath. Also, you know what I mean. So
Mm.
it's like well, I keep on saying that to most of the guests here in Thomas sessions because it says a lot about our passion of being bartenders.
Yeah,
You know? Okay, so
very cool.
cheers to that. And then actually I'm down to a few more questions. Okay, actually as an offshoot to the hard and easy part of being a brand ambassador, how do you deal with the politics of being a brand ambassador if you're okay with that? I mean, like for example, okay. So for example, as much as you want to be everybody's John, as they say, right?
Mm.
Sometimes that's impossible. So there's gonna be some challenges like not all bars is your cup of tea. So if that's applicable
Well,
to you, no, but how do you deal with that?
I got caught up a couple of times in politics, but the thing is, you firstly have to do what's right for the brand. You know what I mean? Like the brand, and when I say you have to do what's right for the brand, I mean it in the sense that the brand is going to be around long after. If you're good at what you do, the brand's going to be around long after you, right? So if you can't do the right thing by the brand, like not do everything for yourself, then just get out. Like if the brand is totally not what you thought it was, and you don't agree with the politics, or you don't agree with the brand, or you find out that there's a story that's a lie, you can't from within start shitting on it. You just got to thank you very much, guys. It was a great opportunity, and just move on and let the brand do its thing. It'll probably figure itself out, because often these brands have been around for a long time and will be around for a long time, and there might be an individual on a marketing team somewhere who's new to whiskey and doesn't think it's important to tell all the information exactly right, and they kind of change things around because they used to work for toothpaste and there's no legislation saying they can't say that. And you get really uppity about it, and they're your boss, and they tell you, no, you got to do this. Do the right thing by the brand, and don't badmouth the brand, because someone will figure that out, and that person's probably going to go in no time, and it might have just been a blip on the age of the brand. When it comes to like social responsibility and duty of care, if someone within the company, within the brand, is doing something irresponsible and like you don't agree with it, again, you just got to be yourself. Just get out of there, like extract yourself. At the same time, there's some people that can't extract themselves from a brand, and I try not to. If I see something happening in a brand that's bad politics, it's a really bad story in the US, right? And everybody's getting upset about it, and it's like about two individuals that happen to be working on a brand. Often you'll see people across the globe start pouring the brand down the sink at the other end of the planet, because there's something they don't agree with over here. For me, if I've got a local brand ambassador and I trust them and I like them and they're doing a great job, I try to not have my actions reflect on them. So it's a difficult kind of world to live in. And when you're a brand ambassador, you're kind of at the mercy of decisions made by people way outside of your pay grade. So you have to hope that you've picked a brand to work on that you trust, that they've been very open and honest with the story of how the brand's made and how everything's done, so that no one's getting upset, and that they're kind of, the broader company is someone that's lovely to work for. You know, they're not gonna just fire 1,000 people tomorrow, and they're hiring people with good contracts. So if you're out there and you're thinking about becoming a brand ambassador, like, it's a big decision. You're leaving your industry behind. You're probably leaving your family behind, and you need to be compensated for it. And you think you're not going to spend any money because everything's on a credit card or something. It's not the case, you know. Often I would even just by a clerical error, I would be in a country running a competition or a bar, a party, and run up 5,000 something tab, and then the corporate card doesn't work, and you're in trouble, you know. So you've got to really protect yourself. The politics are very difficult side to work on, but you've just got to. For me, I weigh things up on, you know, how do I feel this is morally correct, you know, and if it's not, you can't honestly be doing the right thing by the brand or yourself, going out there selling something that you don't believe in. You just got to get out. And often, like, you know, I had times when I misunderstood things, when I thought things were going not the way I wanted, and I'd quit. And my boss would be like, "What is going on?" And I'd sit down and explain, and they'd be like, "No. And that harks back to, you know, me working in a marketing environment rather than a hospitality environment. Often I made mistakes of misunderstanding how things were being played out. So yeah, you just got to go with your instinct, because you're on the road all the time. You're selling this story, you're selling this brand. It's a part of you while you're out there, but you're still just a caretaker for it.
Yeah.
You know, when you hand it over to someone else, it's going to survive. There's a whole team that does that, and you go back to being you again. And I wouldn't want to spend a day selling something I don't believe in, because after every day that you do it, it's gonna affect you. You know.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Now, okay. Let's.
It was a difficult one to answer. Sorry if the answer wasn't very clear.
Sorry, I put you on the spot. I mean, actually, I was.
That's all right.
That's a bit deep already. I was actually referring a little bit simple. Like, for example, you go to a bar. So let's say you go to a bar, and it just so happened that you're not into that bar, or the bar doesn't like you, for example. I don't know if it happened to you. Yeah, it's really that simple. I mean,
that happened all the time. Loads of people hated me. But that's easy.
Yeah, but how you deal with that?
Oh, this is super easy. Okay, so when we built Monkey Shoulder, right? And I had this conversation with one of the managers recently. So have you ever seen the way Apple kind of really early broke down the way that they sold things to people and like who they put their effort into? Anyway, this is the way I see it, right? So imagine you have this. This is the people that just sit on the fence. They don't like the whiskey and they don't dislike the whiskey. They don't have any opinion, right? And then this is the people who like the whiskey and they're buying it irregularly, but they're not like crazy about it. But every time they've heard of it, it's got a good story and they like it, right? These people, no opinion really. These people like it. These people love it, right? They're the ones that are turning up to every event you do. They've got it on their menu. They're pouring it for everyone that comes into the bar. They love it. These people hate you and everything you do, and they think that your product is a disaster and it should be stricken from the shelves and thrown out, right? Now, the two people that shout the most are these two. Now, on social media, because of the way social media works, we hear a lot from these people, because if you have a negative opinion, people will hear it and then reply to it. Like, these guys will be like, "Hey, negative guy," and they'd argue. But this person's comment is getting a lot more traction than this guy going, "I love this brand." Because this guy doesn't comment. Neither, maybe this guy goes, "Yeah, I agree," you know. But these guys don't get these guys commenting on theirs. These guys comment on theirs, right? So they seem bigger on social media, but they're not bigger. Because actually, if you just ignore these guys, Like, don't do anything wrong to them. Don't hate on them. Just ignore them. Like, if they want to hate something, why? Why hate something? It's taking your energy. There's no need, right? There's just something missing in their lives, and we're never going to fill it. We're never going to fill their missing hole. Whereas this, you concentrate on this person, and you get them to keep inviting these people along to things. And you concentrate on this person. If you've got the budget, you concentrate on this person, but you expand so that you're able to invite these guys and maybe these guys. And soon, these guys happen across an event that you're doing, and there's loads of these people here. There's a lot of these people because you've been nurturing them. You've been showing them a good time. You've been telling them, thank you for being a good customer of ours. We love you, right? Rather than wasting our energy trying to keep this person happy, or wasting our energy actually only focusing on this person, like, oh, we've got this guy. He's our friend. No, they're your friend now, but unless you work on a relationship, like a friendship, a real friendship, you're going to lose them. So you keep focusing on these people, like Apple does with their like worldwide developer conference, and they don't invite the haters. They invite all the people that already love Apple. There are big lineups out there buying iPhones. So for me, we focused on these people, and there weren't very many of them at the beginning. And then if we had the spare energy, we focused on these people as well. And eventually, these people were like this in our world. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it shifted because I didn't notice these people anymore. Like, why am I ever going to notice them? I'm so busy taking care of these people and these people that I didn't notice these guys anymore. I go into a bar and they hate my stuff. I'm actually quite confident about it because I'm happy. I've spent 6 days working with these guys, having a great time, and I run into one of these guys, and I'm just like, cool, man, you got a hole in your life. Let's drink Ballantines. And I would buy them. I would drink whatever they're drinking and stop trying to sell anything to them and just be a good person with them. And you know what? If I'm friendly enough and I just leave it, they're not going to hate me anymore. They're more likely to be like, oh, well, maybe, you know what I mean? So that's how I deal with bars that just hate me or don't want to deal with me or whatever. And often, if a bar is a great bar, I'll go into the bar as a brand ambassador and spend my own money and have a nice drink with someone and chill and have fun. If you're a brand ambassador and you're just not going to an account that doesn't stock your stuff, you're not engaging with someone who's probably really talented, good at what they do, and could be working in an account that does stock your stuff in a year. It's a really small world. It's a naive way of dealing with things. So, you know.
I agree. All right. Thank you. Okay. So,
sorry, I didn't get the first. Yeah, anyway.
No worries. Actually, those, okay, guys, again, to those who's listening, this is a very, very interesting topic, especially if you want to go that route of being a brand ambassador. But now let's go fast forward. Let's talk about BBN.
Oh yeah.
So when did that project of yours come into play? I mean, was that during the time you were a brand ambassador, or was that always in the pipeline?
Well, to be honest, so the Dean Callan show thing, I had this idea when I was a brand ambassador to like set up this cabin with lots of different camera angles and like be able to like control it. I didn't have any of this, but my idea was to be able to like come out here and do the whole like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, today I've just gotten back from Tokyo. And when I was in Tokyo, I tried this cocktail that this bartender did, and it was amazing. He's taught me the recipe, and I'm going to make a twist with monkey shoulder, right? Give them the original recipe of the drink, and do a 5-minute video, and then be able to like take the data off the cards and send it to someone to edit, right? Or maybe I'll learn to edit myself, right? Someone would edit it, it would go up on a YouTube channel, and it would be like, we wanted like a kind of monkey mixes anywhere, kind of somewhere we bring a camera, and then there'd be the cocktail cabin, and originally I called it the cocktail cabin with Dean, because the idea would be that if there was a cocktail cabin in Scotland, then we'd have a cocktail cabin at the distillery, and then if say for example, Monkey built a cocktail cabin with all the cameras and bits, in every key city where they're starting to sell really well, and they always looked identical, then you could go into the cocktail cabin that you've been seeing and try all the drinks and stuff like that. So that was the idea. But it just didn't work at the time for what the brand wanted to do. But I was so sold on it that I thought to myself, right, one day I'm going to own a bar. And when I own that bar, I'm going to want to do training, right? So, but how do I promote the bar and like be the face of the bar and do the management stuff and all the rest if I'm busy doing the training? And I knew from my experience that, I trained the head bartender at the beginning, and then after 8 months, that head bartender leaves, and the next person comes through, and they're being trained by someone who I trained, but after a little while, the person I trained is gone, and the person they trained is now training, and the person being trained has their own opinion, and it's harder when you're not the big boss or the person who's the source to keep that consistency. So my idea was, I would like get my camera rolling and be like, this is how I want the limes cut. Because of all the things that drive me the most crazy, it's not if I go into a bar and I ask for a Cosmopolitan Delight, or I ask for a Ramos Gin Fizz, or something that people aren't making all the time, and then it's not perfect. I'm not worried about that. That's if I want my bartenders to be able to make a Ramos Gin Fizz really, really well, I will put Ramos Gin Fizz on special for a week and get all my friends to come in and drink them, because that's the only way for them to keep making them, is the only way for them to, in my opinion, to get really good at it. Now, the cutting the limes, I wanted to be able to cut the limes on the camera and show, like, when I want limes cut, I don't even know where I've put my knife now. When I want limes cut, I want them cut a very particular way. I want you to take the lime, and I want it cut like so that the very minimum amount of the end piece is cut off, the very minimum amount of this end piece is cut off, and then I want it cut down, and then into 8 even pieces, right? But I want those pieces to be like perfect. I want it to be like a perfect, like there's no pith because you've just cut them exactly right. Like, I want it to be good. And when you haven't taught anyone how to cut limes because you assume that's like the super easy basic job, then you're not doing them. I can't say, what's that? When you see a lime wedge that's like cut like, oh, you see a lime wedge and like, it's sharp at one side, and then at the other side, it's a big chunk, and it's got the piece on it, or like you see a bit of like a label. Yeah. In my opinion, I can't be upset with someone if I haven't told them how I would like it done. So to save time, I kind of thought if I created a channel that had, this is the way not saying it's the right way, I would like limes cut. This is the way I would like lemons cut. This is the way I would like oranges cut. And then if I built the station the way the station was going to be in the real bar, this is where the limes are going to go. This is where the oranges are going to go. Like imagine you watch this is the exact way we want to pack the bar down video on your way to work when you've been working there 2 days and you're just on the bus or whatever, or in a train, whatever it is, and you're watching a video on your phone, and it's showing you this is where the limes go, this is where the lemons go, this is how to cut them, this is the close down procedure, and if we change the close down procedure, I get someone to hold a camera and we do the close down procedure. We go through the whole thing, make the video, and it goes up. We take the old video down. So to me, that's why I paid for it myself. I got a loan out to build the cabin. I got a bunch of cameras and gear, and then started doing it myself for that reason. And then especially with COVID, like you have done, it morphed into something different, because during COVID, I was locked at home, couldn't go anywhere. And I've seen all my friends like losing their jobs, It was really bad in London because, you know, I don't know. Well, it was bad everywhere, but some of the you know, people I watched, they were paying their rent with their tips. You know, their actual wage wasn't quite enough for them to live, but they were making really good tips because they're some of the best bartenders in some of the best venues. And then the government was giving them 80% of their normal wage with no tips as furlough. And, you know, I'm getting messages from people, should I pay my rent or eat? Because I'm really worried that I'm going to have a bad name coming out of this. I'm like, don't pay the rent. You know, that someone will come up with a package for landlords or something, you know, like they own 2 houses. They're in a better position than you. You will not have a home if you don't, if you know, if you don't eat, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, right, I'm going to do live feeds so I can chat with people, engage. And that's where it turned into all of this. Does that make sense? Because
Yes.
I figured I can be chatting with someone to keep me happy and sane, you know, so I'm doing something with my time because I just stopped earning money, stopped having consultancy. Everything just stopped like that. And I expected it to be like, if you watched any of the early live feeds, it was like day 2 since lockdown, you know, and I expected it to be like 2 weeks. And it wasn't 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, actually, you answered the next question already. Yeah, actually, yeah, a lot of us were really surprised about that. Okay, but can you tell us where were you exactly when the lockdown was announced there? You remember?
I think we kind of seen it coming. My wife's little sister is like really clued into everything. So she worked for the government, like giving them advice on things back then. Doesn't anymore. So, and they're scientists and stuff like that. So they kind of had an idea. My wife's little sister is a scientist, and her mom is my wife's
Nice.
mom is a scientist. So they kind of knew it was coming. And they were like, buy this and buy this and buy this. And we were like, oh, okay. But we were more or less at home. We were already working from home because actually my wife is a lawyer, and our son was born July 2019, right? So she stayed away from work it was meant to be a year. And then we just needed to go back because we just didn't, you know, we needed to get back to work and like earn some real money again and stuff like that. And I wasn't doing huge amounts on my consultancy at the time because everything was like a bit funny. It's like January, February, people haven't decided what's happening for the year. And then come March, it's like started going into kind of lockdown. So we were already both at home, and my wife had been home for 8 months already. And the week she was meant to go to the office closed. So she didn't go back.
Yeah.
So we were at home. Yeah, and I already had most of this set up, just not with all the live streaming and cameras. I had a couple of cameras, but none of this crazy stuff.
When did the channel start? When did basically your YouTube channel start?
I think the YouTube channel actually started in like 2018. The Dean Callan show started in 2018, 2017 or 2018. But I was doing like a couple of videos and then forget about it for a while. Like I've just stopped doing videos for a few months because things got emotional and it's been a crazy couple of months. And I just thought to myself, like I did the video with Posh.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, like I need to do the people that I'm doing interviews with a bit more justice. Like you've done actual research having this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd started the show just turning everything on and pressing record and being like, right, so what are we going to do today? You know, and then made things up as I was just drinking on camera, because I didn't really think anyone was watching. But then when you start getting guests on, you know, they're professionals and you're taking time out of their time. You know what I mean? Like, so I started thinking, right, I need to do this properly. And that's when I stopped calling it the Dean Callan Show. Well, I've got the Dean Callan Show, but I stopped calling the channel that. And I tried to change the name of the channel, and Facebook wouldn't let me. So it's taken months of changing the name just slightly until about 2 weeks ago. It let me completely change the name.
Okay.
It's really weird.
Yeah, no, Facebook has a lot of issues right now, apparently.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But you know what? With what you're saying, sometimes it's okay to wing it. You know, sometimes I do that. In fact, just to save, because on the other hand, I might be wrong with my research, so I just let the guest do the talking. You know, tell us something about yourself, and then maybe with what's being said, you know, that's where I ask the questions. And but like you, for example, although we've met now formally, which is good, I'm happy. But I was hearing also, you know, because Monkey Shoulder, and I've already watched some of your videos. So more or less, I have an idea of what I wanna get from you, or like pick your brains, you know, with
Okay, cool.
something I want to learn from. So pretty much that's it. Okay. Well, with that being said, maybe my last question to you, or last two questions. What's the first cocktail you ever made? If you still remember it.
Well, technically speaking, I made a bunch of cocktails when I was a little kid that were just like, we were trying. The first thing I remember that was actually a recipe was a shot of it, which was called a cocksucking cowboy, or butterball is a probably better name for it. And I'll never forget this, because I remember the first time I made that, and it was like an older girl that I'd hooked up with that was old enough to go out to like clubs and cocktail bars, because I could get into pubs underage, because I was like not tall or anything, but I was like quite muscular, and I worked as a laborer, you know, with like old men. So they would go to the pub at lunchtime, and I would go to the pub. I actually did this in real life. This is how dumb I was. I went to the pub when I was like 16 years old, and you had to be 18.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be a bartender so bad. So I'm a laborer. I roll in, and we're like a couple of pints, you know, and I'm like straight to the bartender. So how do you get a job in a bar? You know, and this laboring job paid more than a bar job did, right? How do you get a job in a bar? Like, what do you need to do to start? And they're like, just come in and ask for a job, you know, like you just start on the floor and you pick up glasses. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can pick up glasses. And like, just to clarify, you have to be 18, right? Because she was like, oh, well, look, if you really want a job, I can give you a recommendation, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but do you have to be 18? She's like, yeah, you need to be 18. I was like, oh, okay, I'll have to wait. She's like, are you not 18? Because she's been serving me beer all afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm 18. I'm asking for a friend, you know? And like, she was like, right. It sounded a lot like you were asking for yourself. And then I waited until I turned 18. And I did courses and stuff in the meantime. Like I did bartending cocktail training course, which was like a 6-week course. I did a 1-week bartending course, and I did a workplace training and assessment course. Like, oh no, it was there was a hospitality course, and then there was a cocktail bartending course, and then there was a workplace training and assessment course, which was like how to teach people in the workplace to do things, which I don't even know. I just got accepted into that. I applied for that as well, and I got accepted into that because it had some training aspect in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, long time ago.
So with that, we'll move forward. What's your top 5 cocktails now? Is there top 5 favorite cocktails?
Okay, top 5 cocktails. Gosh. Should I stick to classics?
Yeah, up to you. Can be either or.
So for me, my favorite cocktail in the world is a Manhattan. I love a Manhattan. I will always love Manhattans. I like old fashions. So, I mean, it doesn't sound all that interesting. I think that because it's exactly the opposite of what I would normally drink, and it's got like if it's done exactly right, like if it's a really good one, it's difficult to just to beat. Like it's just magic. Ramos Gin Fizz. Because it can just be so amazing. Same thing with a pina colada. Like I'm a big fan of a really, really well-made pina colada, but the problem is I want a pina colada with like fresh, juicy pineapple. Like, you know the pineapple where you put it, you'll know because you can get good pineapples where you guys are. You put a pineapple on a bar and then you walk out of the room, go outside, and when you walk back in, you can smell the pineapple across the room. Yeah. That's the kind of pina colada I want, where it's like the lime is delicious, the pineapple is delicious, every part of it is good. So really well-made pina colada that like I like them blended as well. Like that's just immaculately made. Blows my mind and brings me to another place. And then there's so like I've cornered myself into there's so many drinks. Like I'm a big fan, so I'm going to make an honorable mention of a hanky panky and like a whiskey or rum version of a hanky panky, or Toronto, and again a rum Toronto. Love them. Like that tiny dash of Fernet. I'm a massive fan of right now. Morning Glory Fizz. Honorable mention, Morning Glory Fizz. Love a Morning Glory Fizz. They're absolutely well-made. Morning Glory Fizz is absolutely delicious. But then, honestly, I'm going to have to go mojito. And I might be just like kicking against, everyone's like, who is this basic guy? But if you put me in a situation where I had to create a menu of cocktails, oh God, I forgot Negroni and Boulevardier. Oh, what have I done? If I had to make a cocktail menu, I would stick to those kind of raw ones. If you said, right, you got 5 cocktails and you've got to put 5 cocktails on the menu and then you can never take them off. You can improve them, but you have to stick to, for example, a Negroni has to be gin and then bitters, like Italian style bitters. So, it can't be Angostura, non-potable. It has to be like Campari or Campari variant. And vermouth, then at least I can change the gin up and change the Campari up and change the vermouth up. Like this guy here, this is a new gin that's come out in the UK. Like it's going to be a while before it hits everywhere else. But I don't know why. But when you put that in a Negroni or you put it into a hanky panky or anything that's got vermouth and bitters in it, it's like a London Dry with just something about it that just makes everything like it binds those ingredients really well and they taste amazing. And it made me fall in love with just a Negroni again. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So for me, yeah, it'd be Manhattan, old fashioned, probably a Ramos Gin Fizz, Pina Colada, and I might go Negroni or Mojito Negroni.
Yeah.
Mojito, because I'd probably prefer mojitos all year round than pina coladas. There'd be too much acid in the pina colada after a while. Yeah, those drinks, when they're made really, really well, you can't go wrong. And also, I can change up the rum in the mojito and make it a completely different thing constantly,
Yes. Agree. All right, so I guess that's pretty much it. Yep. Now it's time to promote. Is there anything you want to promote, or actually promote whichever you have right now? Projects, website, etc. Go.
Well, to be honest, I'm going to start doing my show again, and I'm going to start doing like just a winging it live show, and then I'm calling people the same way you're doing now. So actually, like, would you want to be on my show?
Yes, of course. Anytime.
Yeah. Because I'm a big fan of like cross pollination. Like
Yes.
you know, because I might people might watch my show that don't watch your show and stuff like that. Being obviously in a different part of the world, so that'd be cool.
Yep.
Get your guys to watch that when I've got it figured out and I start doing the show again. And otherwise, I'm going to start doing live feeds for other people soon, and hopefully start putting them on my Bartenders Broadcast Network. So you'll start seeing other types of videos apart from me just talking shit to a camera for like an hour. My videos started getting so long. They were meant to be 22 minutes. I was like, I want 22-minute videos, 20 minutes. And then they were like an hour and a half sometimes.
Now that's cool. Actually, if the more you okay, with although we're into it, we'll end. It's already the end. But have you considered podcasting?
I thought that's kind of what it was. Do you mean like just audio?
Yeah, just audio. Yeah, just audio. Because okay, you're correct in a way because if they don't watch the video, but you can also release it in podcast format.
Yeah, see, I listen to YouTube. I put YouTube tutorials on all the time and then just listen to it, just the audio. But the difference is I'll be listening to an interview, just the audio, and then someone will say something and I'll be like, ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'll skip back because I want to see, I'll be like, boom, and like, skip back, because I want to see their face when they said that. Or I want to see the motion. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then I'll press play again and like sit back and get a better sense of what was going on. I'm very visual, as you know, from like doing trainings with videos and I like the video side of it. I've got a friend who does podcasts, like the 86 podcast. He's on Spotify and he's really good. So if you get a chance to go and see his podcast, and he's interviewing I was interviewed on his podcast, okay? But apart from me, he's interviewing some really interesting characters in the bar industry, especially in London. And he's an audio guy, so it sounds amazing. And the jingle at the beginning was completely made by him. He's so good.
Ah, nice. I will do that. I'm following Anchor now because I'm trying to study it. I want to incorporate the YouTube channel with the podcast. But for a podcast, I might as well spill the beans. I'm doing book reviews. So like bartending.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so like my first ever book was by Mark Barrett. So it's like a pocket book. And then Idiot's Guide to Bartending. So I'm planning to do a podcast on that. So that at least.
Well, I've done a few of the same. Like I've got a lot of books in here, and I started doing the bartender's book club kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
And there's a guy in Norway that's doing it as well. And I think the more people doing it, the better. So like I think it's a great idea for you to do it, because there's different people read books and see them different ways. I read through a book and then keep it as a reference guide. So if I'm giving a book review, I'll be like, you should hang on to the Savoy, cocktail book because this cocktail was first written in the Savoy. They created these cocktails. This page, like lock these down. Here's Harry Craddock's opinion on this, or here's something from this, and then do the same for like Joy Mixology or Dale DeGroff's books, or why you should read PDT and which parts are interesting that aren't in other books, or if you look it up. Here's an interesting one. Books released by American bartenders in the last 10 years that are a basic bartender's guide, right? Right?
Yes.
So they don't have Manhattans in them.
Interesting.
Right? They do. I mean, some books do, but there's a lot that don't. So I was going to do a whole episode on like, why is the Manhattan being omitted from cocktail books right now? Right? Because everyone thinks that everyone knows it. They put an old fashioned in there.
Oh.
So
okay.
Interesting. Is it just is everyone just missing that, or why are they not putting it in there? So those sorts of things I found interesting.
Okay. Thank you for that. Actually, I will check that out. That's interesting. To think it's an American cocktail after all, right? because it's
Yep.
Manhattan.
And it's for me, it's really interesting. And I've got a lot of books here. So if you ever want to like bounce off each other on which ones I found interesting for book reviews, because like I said, even if we were reviewing the same book from two different point of views,
Yep.
seeing the two different versions of positives, then if someone's looking to buy that book and there's two different YouTube channels that have reviewed it, like,
Cool. Yes.
you know what I mean? If you think the new MacBook Pro was released, right? Do you know how many people did a review on the new MacBook Pro? I have no idea, but they're in the thousands, you know? Like, anyway, and it's a computer and everyone's doing Geekbench tests against the same computer. Everyone's doing the same tests. Why are there so many videos? But there's like, you try to find a book review on like a cocktail book and there's none.
Yes.
So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, good luck with that, man.
I'm happy that you're also in that. Yeah, no, you're correct. If one or two starts doing it, and then it will spread, and then we have a whole new community doing.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I think the YouTube video, TikTok, whatever it is, community of bartenders sharing their passion. There's a couple of like channels that are getting really good, and like I love them. I would want different things from a video, but I'm yet to figure out how to create those things the way I want. So it's all new. Yeah. But if there's one thing I wanted to promote, it's like, hey guys, like and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell. It really helps.
I'm having a hard time trying to memorize that at some point before.
Yeah.
Just the script for that, right? Okay, well, with that being said, again, Dean, thank you very much for the time. And, hopefully we get to meet again. And, I'm looking forward to that exchange of views with regards to the books. And, just feel free to reach out also whenever.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on the show.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care. Keep safe. Ciao.
Yeah.
With that being said, guys, as we always say in Thomas Sessions, be inspired, be informed, and be involved. See you on the next episode. Toma na.
It's my life.